One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about the new Marvel Cinematic Universe release, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I'm here to talk about it in a non-spoilery fashion. I don't want to ruin the movie for you guys. I just want to give you guys my thoughts on it, whether or not I think it's worth your time. And that's what I'm here to do. So let's talk about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It's been a while since I've talked about a movie on this channel, and I think that's partially because of the fact that I haven't been to the movies as much, but just the television takes up so much of my time, but at the same time I can watch TV at home, whereas I have to leave to go to the movies. And like I said, I just had a newborn baby, I got 4 kids. It's not easy for me to just up and go to the movies anymore. But my oldest son, he's 14, he was ready to go see this, so we went to go see it today, and I thought it was pretty strong, pretty good. I'm not one to engage in hyperbole. You're gonna see a ton of that online, as you do with anytime a big new film is released. You're gonna see people rushing and clamoring and fighting to be the first person to overstate how great it is or understate how terrible it is. It's a weird thing, this dynamic of being the first person to exaggerate the quality of something. I don't know why that's a thing, but anytime something comes out, a big film or a big television release or a big music release, you will find in your Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media you choose to use, you will find in that timeline people who are fighting and climbing over one another to over exaggerate the quality of whatever this item is. So I'm not going to do that, but I am going to talk about what I thought of the film from a more measured perspective. I watched people, post about it starting Thursday night, and of course, to be expected, anytime something like this comes out, especially like Black Panther specifically, Black people we already had it in our mind that this was a great movie before we saw it, but that also made me very hesitant to even read or look at anybody else's reviews, because I already knew, people were pre-programmed to say this was to be the first person out of the theater to say this is the best movie since Schindler's List or some shit. I was already ready for it. It was happening. But I did think this was a really strong new entry into the MCU. It pretty much shares everything that made the original Black Panther special, except it's of course lacking the most important thing that made Black Panther special, which is the presence of Chadwick Boseman. But there was, I guess, my feelings going into this, starting from just the announcement that it was going to be made, to losing Chadwick Boseman, to the announcement that the movie was still happening, up to now, my thought process was kind of like, I hope that they're not going to force a shitty movie on us, or sully the memory of this franchise or of Chadwick Boseman's memory by making a shitty movie to capitalize off of the popularity of the first film, and to capitalize off of the not popularity, but capitalize off of his death and monetarily. That was a huge concern for me, because I'm like, look, if you want to make this movie and you feel like you have to make this movie, make it because you have to make this movie, not because everybody else wants to see a new Black Panther movie, so we gotta make one, or we have to find a way to pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman through this movie, so we gotta make one. I want the priority to be, I have a compelling story to tell here. I have a story that I think audiences are going to connect with and engage with, and I want to tell that story while also paying respect to the memory of Chadwick Boseman. That's what I was hoping for, and I'm a cynical person. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting a cash grab and a movie that felt thrown together, or something that just felt like, okay, we gotta make something, and it just doesn't have anything that made the first movie special. And I'm glad to report I was wrong about that. I did not get that vibe at all. And I think, one of the things that was really important about this movie was how do they handle Chadwick Boseman's memory here. And I didn't want it to be something where it felt like the whole movie was kind of centered on the T'Challa character to kind of manipulate us into feeling that the movie is great by connecting the movie to our emotions and our feelings about the loss of Chadwick Boseman. So I didn't want to, what I mean by that is I didn't want it to feel so heavily a tribute to Chadwick that I felt like they were manipulating us into thinking that the movie is good when really it's just like an emotional manipulation. But at the same time, you want them to actually give him some level of tribute in this film, and I think they did strike that perfect balance. Like the film opens up with his funeral, T'Challa's funeral, and we find out like he just died of some sort of illness. They don't spend too much time on what happened, and that's that's beyond reasonable. That's smart. We don't need to dwell on what happened to T'Challa when we know what happened to Chadwick. So it's like it's smart to kind of avoid that. But they have this kind of like funeral for T'Challa at the beginning of the movie, and then they have a couple of scenes later toward the end that I think are nice tributes to him as well. They did the Marvel Studios graphic that pops up at the beginning of every Marvel Studios film, which they had run after the funeral scene, which opened the movie, was all Chadwick Boseman stuff. Normally it's like you see Hulk, you see Cap, you do see Black Panther, but the whole thing was Chadwick stuff. That was cool. But I did think they struck a proper balance there, and I didn't feel like I felt like they paid him enough tribute, and I also feel like they didn't go too far to where I felt like we were being emotionally manipulated into thinking that the film was better than it was just because we're tied to Chadwick. So I thought they did good there. And also I feel bad. I almost feel like I need to apologize to Ryan Coogler for expecting something that would be so far beneath him motivationally, right? Like he's not gonna make something half-assed just to capitalize financially. He's gonna use his whole ass, and he did. And I love that. I'm sorry, Ryan Coogler, for doubting you. It was very much, like I said, it had everything that we needed in a Black Panther film. It just lacked the Chadwick Boseman aspect. And when you take that away, you're automatically gonna have a lesser film unless you can find a replacement for that, which you're never gonna do. So this was never going to be the same or better than the original Black Panther. All we could do is really hope for something that shows proper respect to Chadwick's memory and a movie that we're satisfied with. And it had let me just talk about the fucking like costumes, the hair, the makeup. I mean, I want Oscars for everybody who had anything to do with the set locations. Like I said, the costumes, the hair, the makeup, everything about it, just the vibe that the film gives off. Like I want everybody who is involved in that to win an Oscar because it's just incredible the work that they do, and all of it combines to put this level of, I guess the only way I can put it, this level of swag on this movie. Like this we are so fucking cool in these Black Panther movies, man. And there's something that there's so much pride you can gain from that, from seeing your people depicted on a television screen or on a film screen and be so incredibly proud. Like, look how fucking cool we look. Look how fucking majestic and regal we look, how we are in this film. Like, and it's so fucking cool, man. And like I said, that's the same vibe we got from the original movie. Like, look how fucking cool we are. Look at all this advanced tech that we have. Look at all of these cool and creative like world building aspects that exist in both of these films. Just to give us an idea of what the culture is like in Wakanda, like who's coming up with this shit. Like, it kind of reminds me of like the tech piece of it, like all the cool tech that they have kind of reminds me of like a lot of the cool tech you're seeing on the peripheral this season on Amazon. And then the world building with the creativity of the culture and learning what it's like seeing what life is like in Wakanda, just the culture as a whole. That feels like the creativity that they're doing with the world building on Andor. Like, that's another one where it's like, how are you even coming up with stuff this creative and cool that we've never even seen before? And we get a lot of that in this film. I'm deeply appreciative of that as well. There's a great Angela Bassett scene in here. She has a great monologue moment that I feel is very relating this to Andor again for some reason. The episode 10 had a great speech from Stellan Skarsgård, and I feel like that this speech with Angela Bassett and this is on par with that one. And again, the plot is serviceable as well. I didn't find like a ton of holes in it or anything like that. I'll give you guys like a quick, I guess, summary of the plot without getting too spoilery, but essentially all the world governments want vibranium, and they consider Wakanda to be vulnerable after the death of T'Challa, which is, again, the funeral is the opening scene of the movie. And it's been assumed by not just the rest of the world, but by Wakanda as well, that Wakanda is the only place that has vibranium. So, the world governments, not just America, would look at Wakanda as like, okay, they don't have T'Challa, or they don't have a Black Panther, because you remember Killmonger took care of all of the, wiped out the heart-shaped herb in the first movie. So they're looking like, okay, they're vulnerable, we can come after them. And they have someone who is a scientist. I'm not gonna talk about the scientist at all, because we're keeping things non-spoiler. They have this scientist who develops a machine that can track vibranium. It finds vibranium buried beneath the ocean ground, and once they start mining for this vibranium, it alerts the great Namor, the Submariner, who Namor the Submariner is like kind of like almost like an OG fucking Marvel character. Like, this isn't a guy that like you watch this movie and you're like, hey, they ripped off Aquaman. They did not rip off Aquaman. Namor has been around since like the 1930s. Like, this is an OG fucking character, right? I believe technically Namor was debuted in Marvel Comics before Aquaman did in DC. I could be wrong, but I believe Namor is first. And we're just now seeing Namor in these films because I believe Namor's rights were owned by, I want to say, Fox. So when Disney bought Fox, that was when they got the rights to Namor. I think Namor was like the only fucking like major character that Fox had the rights to. Sony had Spider-Man, and do I have it backwards? Like, Fox had a whole bunch of stuff like X-Men, and then Sony had Spider-Man, and then maybe Namor. But whatever the case may be, whoever it is that had the rights to Namor, Disney bought him, and now Namor appears in this film. And the mining for vibranium beneath the ocean ground is what prompts him to kind of handle some business on his own. And he wants to work with Wakanda to protect not just his people, but their people from the world governments trying to come there and take Wakanda and harm his people. But rather than kind of playing defense, he wants to play offense. And he wants to kill this scientist who created this vibranium tracking machine. And he wants to initiate, strike first on the surface dwellers. And that this, him saying like, hey, Wakanda, help me, or I'm gonna include you in who I fuck up. That doesn't really sit well with Wakanda. That puts them at odds with Namor and his people, and that's kind of like the general plot for the film. So, like I said, it really, this film works. If you like the first one, you're gonna like this one. It has all of the things that made us love the first one. It has all of that stuff, just minus Chadwick, which obviously we knew we weren't going to have going in. And I think that's the most we can hope for, right? Is knowing that what Chadwick brought to the role is going to be absent here unless you tried to find somebody to replace him. And now when I say replace him, I don't mean even replace him as T'Challa, but just try to find someone who could bring some sort of gravitas to a role, who is beloved, who does that character well, and it resonates with audiences. Like, it was a really special connection with Chadwick, and it would have been foolhardy to even try to replace that connection. So we went into this knowing that we weren't going to have that Chadwick piece to this, but removing the Chadwick piece, the most we could hope for is a movie that honors his memory, honors this franchise, and gives us all of the feelings that we had leaving the first one, which was like, it was fun, it was exciting, it was super cool to watch, it made our people look and feel cool and regal and badass, and everybody looks beautiful and amazing. And again, when I say that, I mean that. Like, this is primarily a female-led film, and everybody from fucking Angela Bassett right down to, well, I almost gave away a spoiler there. All the women in this, they look amazing. And it's a really great film. So I encourage you all to go see it. If you like the first one, you're going to like this one as well. And I will see you guys, I don't know when, for whenever the next time I do one of these movie things. I don't know what's going to get me out of here again. Probably some of the big ones that are going to be vying for Oscar attention late in December, early January. So whenever that comes, I'll see you guys then. Until then, peace.